Alright, so another week of WandaVision has come and gone. You know the drill by now. This is a spoiler review for episode 6. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to spoil everything in episode 6 that we saw this week. So with all that out of the way, let's just get right into it. So when we last left off in WandaVision, we had Pietro, played by Evan Peters, come to the door, and Wanda was understandably very shocked, as well as the rest of us, because it was not Pietro, Aaron Taylor Johnson from the MCU. It was Pietro from the X-Men universe, or so we thought. This episode kind of confirmed that this Pietro is in fact the Pietro from Age of Ultron and not the X-Men universe. He's just wearing Evan Peters' face for some reason. I'm so glad I spent a solid minute talking about how he was from the X-Men universe and she was pulling things from the multiverse and how that's gonna amount to something. So when this episode kicks off, it is Halloween season in Wanda's reality, and this episode took the format of kind of like a Malcolm in the Middle show. It ditched the laugh track. It felt like it was shot in a handheld kind of way, and even Billy, one of the twins, he breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to us, the audience, in the beginning of this episode, talking about how Vision and Wanda are kind of having not a fight, they're just acting different. And we see this when Vision comes out and he's dressed in his Halloween costume, and he says that he's going to go patrol for the night with the neighborhood watch committee. And Wanda looks at him and says, "That's not what you're supposed to do." And Vision looks at her and goes, "I'm sorry, what? Like, what do you mean that's not what I'm supposed to do?" And she changes her tone and goes, "I just mean it's the kids' first Halloween. We should be with them." So you see that the fight between Wanda and Vision, while it's not as intensely going on as we saw at the end of episode 5, it is still there. And Vision and Wanda, they're in a bit of a rocky part of their relationship. We also find out that Pietro is couch surfing. Wanda has decided to let Pietro stay, even though he doesn't look like her brother. He is very adamant to her that he is the Quicksilver from the MCU that we saw die in Age of Ultron. And he's really starting to get a connection with the boys. He's kind of the fun, childish uncle around them that's not really the best influence. So they decided to go out trick-or-treating all together, Wanda, Pietro, Billy, and Tommy. And right off the bat, the thing I found really interesting about this episode is that it's set during Halloween, because the big thing at the end of episode 5 was Vision asking Wanda, "Why aren't there any other kids in this neighborhood? Why don't I ever see the playground full of children?" Now Wanda's apparently listened to that criticism and she has filled the streets with hundreds of kids for Halloween season. I found that very interesting. Of like, right after Vision points out where are all the kids, she decides, hey, it's Halloween time, and all the kids come out to play. So we cut back to the SWORD organization, and Director Hayward has decided to ban Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy from his military base because they were defending Wanda a little too much. So as they're being escorted out of SWORD, they beat up the security and they find their way back in and they start investigating, because it appears Hayward has more information on Wanda's reality than he has let on to his team. In fact, using the heat source of vibranium, I think they're saying, he's actually tracking Vision within Wanda's reality. And we now see that Vision has made his way to the outer regions of Wanda's reality. And this is where the episode taking place during Halloween makes the most sense, because there is some really creepy stuff that Vision starts experiencing. As he starts getting to the outer regions of Westview, we see that there are people that are basically like robotically stuck in a glitch. This one lady, she's trying to hang her laundry, and you see her, she keeps putting the laundry up and bringing it back down and bringing it up and bringing it back down, and the guy behind her is putting a pumpkin down and picking it back up and putting it back down and picking it back up. And Vision starts to notice these weird little behaviors that the people are making. And the woman, the one that's putting up the laundry, she even gets this like one single tear that comes out of her face. Like inside, she's consciously aware that she is trapped doing the same motion over and over again, and she can't stop herself. When you really think about what Wanda is doing to these people, especially when you see what she's doing to them that are further out, almost like her magic, her power, her control can't reach that far out and sustain everyone around in this community. So some of them are kind of pushed to the sidelines and they're stuck in this glitch kind of motion. Some of them aren't even moving. A lot of the people that Vision encounters in the outer regions of Westview, they're just frozen. They're just stuck there. They're not even moving. They're not communicating with him. They're basically just statues standing there. So in the outer regions of Westview, Vision eventually encounters Agnes, who's stuck at a stop sign, and Vision's kind of asking her like, "Agnes, what are you doing out here?" But it was almost like she was so far out that she was kind of in this like weird kind of trance where she was just sitting there like, I took a wrong turn. And Vision's like, "You took a wrong turn in the town that you grew up in." So he's starting to put the dots together that these pieces just don't fit. So he does the finger on the temple thing that he did to Norm in the last episode. And Agnes snaps right out of it. And she looks at Vision and goes, "You're Vision. You're one of the Avengers. Are you here to help us?" And Vision looks at her and goes, "I am Vision. I want to help. But what's an Avenger?" because he has no memory outside of Westview, so he doesn't remember being in the Avengers. In fact, I don't think that this Vision was ever in the Avengers. I think that this Vision is basically like a reborn Vision that Wanda has created, because Vision essentially was an android. He was a robot. So when Vision died, Wanda just put the pieces back together and basically built a new robot. I think that this is an entirely new creation, a new robot that does have his own behaviors and ways that he can act, and he has freedom. He just doesn't remember anything about the old Vision, because this isn't the old Vision. This is a brand new creation of Vision. So Vision keeps talking to Agnes, and Agnes starts saying she won't let us leave. Wanda won't even let us think about leaving. And then she just starts cackling like a maniac. Like she just goes into the psychotic and she's dressed as a witch, which makes it even creepier. So Vision puts his fingers back on the temple and she snaps back into it and she goes, "Well, howdy, neighbor. See you later." And she does a U-turn and she drives back into town. So when we cut back to Wanda and Pietro, Wanda is kind of like poking at Pietro. She's like, "What was the name of the kid in the orphanage that used to pick on us all the time?" And Pietro looks at her and goes, "You're testing me, aren't you? Like, I'm your bro, come on." And she starts asking all these questions, and Pietro is adamant that he's like, "I am Quicksilver." She even looks at him and says, "What happened to your accent?" And he looks at her and goes, "What happened to yours?" I love that they addressed that Wanda slowly lost her accent throughout the movies. And he says, "I don't know why I'm here. I just remember being shot up in the street like a chump, and the next thing I know, I'm hearing your voice, and I know you needed me." And even a little later on, when Pietro is asking Wanda, "Hey, how did you do this? Like, where were you hiding all the kids? I assume they were safely in their bed. Like, I'm really impressed with how you've done this." And she says to him, "I don't really know how I did this. It just kind of like started, I was lonely, and I felt emptiness, and then this appeared." And so Wanda definitely created this reality, whether she consciously did or subconsciously did. I don't believe this whole theory that there's another force in this. I really do think it's all Wanda. Although the commercial this episode was very interesting, because the commercial for this episode has a little boy on a desert island, and the shark comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, are you hungry?" And the boy's like, "I'm starving." And he's like, "I used to be starving too until I started feeding on Yo Magic." And it's like this yogurt snack that's called Yo Magic, but the way that he says it kind of sounds like, "I was feeding on your magic." And the boy tries to open up the wrapper and he can't open it up, and day and night's going by, and he slowly decomposes until eventually he's a skeleton and he's dead. So there is something in that commercial that's like feeding on your magic. Is something feeding on Wanda's magic? Is that what's going on? Is that what that commercial was referring to? Or is this Pietro? Is he feeding off of Wanda's magic? But this commercial I found the most interesting of all of the WandaVision commercials. So anyways, as Wanda's sitting there and she's telling Pietro, "I don't really know how I did this. It just kind of happened out of loneliness and emptiness." She turns around and she sees the dead Pietro. She sees him with the bullet holes in him, just like he got shot up in Age of Ultron. So I think a lot of things in this episode regarding Pietro and Wanda do confirm that he is the Quicksilver in the MCU that we saw die in Age of Ultron. So, you know, not the X-Men universe Pietro. Oh well. Some theories live, some theories die. So anyways, we go back to Vision, and Vision has now reached the end of Westview, and he is at the barrier, and he is breaking his way through the barrier, and all of the sword military guys, they get the alert, and they rush out to go meet Vision, and he's coming through the barrier, and as Vision breaks through the barrier, you start to see pieces of him just go flying off of his body. I don't know if he's getting necessarily pulled back into the vortex piece by piece. I think that those could be pieces that Wanda used to build the rest of Vision, because as we saw in the previous episode, Wanda went in and she got Vision's dead body, but his dead body was kind of split all over the place. He wasn't just one piece, so these could be pieces that she used to fill in the gaps to create Vision. And because those pieces belong to this reality, they got sucked back into his reality, and the other pieces were staying out there. But regardless, he was getting pulled apart, and you hear him say, "The people need help, help these people." And then we go back into Wanda's reality, and the boys have now discovered their powers. I believe Tommy has Quicksilver's powers. He can run really fast. And so we see Billy acquire his powers, which appear to be telekinesis, because he starts reaching out and he starts hearing Vision's voice in his head, and he starts hearing the military guys. And so like any young boy would do, he rushes to his mom and he's like, "I can hear Dad's voice. I think he's in trouble." And she tells him, "Focus. Where is he? I really need you to focus right now. Try to find out exactly where he is." And he's like, there's guys with guns and military." And Wanda clues in right away to where Vision is. So at this point, I look to my brother who I'm watching the episode with, and I'm like, "Oh, she's gonna go psycho. She's gonna bust out of this barrier and she's gonna tear those military guys apart." No, Wanda gets her red flaming energy balls in her hand, her bloodshot red eyes, and she just freezes the whole reality. Every single person around Wanda stops moving. They freeze in place, and she starts stretching out the barrier. The hex that she has created, she is pushing further out to once again cover over Vision. And in doing so, she starts to cover over the entire SWORD military base. And in a really cool transition, you see the base turn into a circus. And I thought it was really funny how she turned all these military guys into clowns. Like, you fools, you're just clowns to me. And so you see the only people that get out, I believe, are Director Hayward, Monica Rambeau, and Jimmy Woo, because Darcy stayed behind because she was investigating more into Vision. And when Vision broke out of the barrier, she ran out there. She's like, you guys need to help him. And she got handcuffed to a car and they left her there. So she got covered over by the barrier. And then Jimmy Woo, Monica Rambeau, and Director Hayward, they were in the car and they were driving away. And the barrier was like right on their tail. It was like really cool. It was really thrilling. Wanda, she opens her eyes and the episode just ends. So I don't know if she stopped the barrier or if the barrier is still growing. But regardless, we now know that Wanda not only controls everything in this reality, she can freeze people. She has people out in the outer regions who are like stuck in a glitch because she can't fully control them, I think. And now she has been shown to expand the hex. She has control over the barrier itself. Wanda is totally, I like how much they're going down the path of Wanda being the villain, because this is a villainous move. Yes, it was out of desperation to save her husband, Vision, and it was also really interesting when the kids were talking to Wanda and was like, Vision's out there, and Pietro goes, oh, don't worry, sis, it's not like your dead husband can die twice, and she just blasts him against the wall. I think there's going to be some friction going on between Pietro and Wanda going forward, because I don't think Wanda's completely convinced that this is her brother Quicksilver from the MCU. It also leaves questions of what happens to Darcy, what happens to these military guys. We know from Monica's experience getting sucked in and being Geraldine that she doesn't really have any memories of the outside world. We see that the memory's broken a couple times, but for the most part, Geraldine had no memory of the outside world. So is Darcy now going to play along? Does Wanda have a role for her to play, or how is Wanda gonna use all these military guys and Darcy now that they're stuck inside her hex as well? And where does this leave with Wanda and Vision? Because Vision saw the horrors of these people that were out in the outer regions, and he was reaching out to the military guys, asking them to help him. Like, he's against Wanda in my mind at this point. So it's gonna be interesting to see where they go moving forward. This episode just left me really wondering where they're gonna go, what direction they're heading in for episode 7. Because the end of this WandaVision episode just changes the show entirely. Now that she has control on the barrier and she expands it out, what do you think the outside world's gonna do? Like, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna see that as a threat, a bigger threat than it's been in the past. Because what if Wanda just decided to expand the barrier all over the world? Like, could she do that? Could she trap the entire world inside of her reality and have control over the entire world? How is the rest of the MCU world going to retaliate against Wanda now that she has shown to be a bigger threat than she has ever been before in the past? Anyway, guys, those are all my thoughts and opinions on this newest episode of WandaVision. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode of WandaVision. I didn't feel like it had as much going on as it did in episode 5, but there was still a lot of revelations that they revealed, a lot more questions that they gave, and I continue to really enjoy the direction that this show is heading in. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of WandaVision episode 6? Comment down below. Let me know. I want to know all your thoughts and opinions about this episode, and where do you predict it's going to head in episode 7? As always, guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. And guys, I am continuing to talk and review about every episode of WandaVision each week as it drops on Disney+. So if you want to join me for that ride, I welcome you to do so, and I'd love for you to do so, to hit that subscribe button so that we can continue to talk about WandaVision together as episodes drop every week. Once again, guys, my name is Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me, and hope you have yourself a great day.